When we mention the word oil drum, most of you probably envision a familiar image. This type of oil drum is common in daily life, though few people know it originated in Germany during World War II. Known as one of the greatest designs of the war and one of the finest products in engineering, this drum sparked widespread imitation and is still in use today. In this episode, let's dive into the enduring legacy of the German oil drum. Just how remarkable was this German creation? The Germans regarded it as a key contributor to their Blitzkrieg campaigns. During the 1940 Tour de France, German forces used these drums to transport and supply fuel, making the process highly efficient and fast. Their armored divisions rarely worried about fuel shortages and could speed along without stopping, quickly outpacing British and French forces and eventually encircling them. In just 1 month, France, which boasted Europe's largest army, was conquered. Germany initially classified this oil drum as a military secret, aiming to prevent other nations from copying it. However, the drum's extensive use made it difficult to keep under wraps. Eventually, the British discovered it and were struck by its effectiveness. Seeing this new oil drum, they couldn't help but think, what have we been using all this time? They soon discarded their old containers and began producing German-style drums. Later, the Americans and Soviets followed suit, adopting the German design without hesitation. Once the new drums were produced, American soldiers grew particularly fond of them. President Roosevelt once remarked that without these oil drums, the Allies wouldn't have been able to advance across France with the speed necessary to defeat German forces. The official name of this German oil drum was the Wehrmacht Standard Fuel Container, but Americans nicknamed it the Jerrycan, a playful reference to the German origins of the design. Back in the 1930s, Blitzkrieg mastermind Heinz Guderian, heavily favored by Hitler, worked to build a strong, mechanized force for Germany. As their theories evolved and were put into practice, the Germans realized that the key to Blitzkrieg lay in logistics, especially in fuel. After all, a tank without fuel is nothing more than scrap metal. At that time, the German fuel supply chain started with rail tank cars transporting oil from refineries and oil fields to army fuel depots. From there, fuel was divided into tanks or drums and moved by transport units to fuel warehouses near the front lines, where it was either loaded directly into vehicles or distributed to lower units. The German army standardized 2 types of fuel containers, the 200-liter tank and the 20-liter drum. It's the drum we're focusing on today. Initially, German forces used a basic triangular drum, which was functional for storage or use with tanker trucks, but cumbersome for frontline troops. To solve this, Germany gathered several companies, instructing them to create a lighter, sturdier, and more secure fuel container. After a competitive process, Muller Company's design was chosen, becoming the new standard drum for the German military. So, what makes this oil drum so special? The oil drum design we see today is so familiar that it's hard to imagine anything special about it. It's just a square container with handles. However, back in the 1930s, this type of oil drum was a groundbreaking innovation, specifically crafted with battlefield use in mind and balancing both functionality and comfort. Let's start with how to carry the drum. The top of the drum features 3 rounded handles, an ingenious improvement over a single handle. When carrying a full drum, a soldier can easily grip the center handle without interference from the side handles. For those with less strength, they can use 2 hands on either side handle, or 2 people can carry it together using the side handles. When transporting empty drums, soldiers could line up 2 drums side by side, grip the adjacent handles, and effortlessly carry 2 drums at once. Muller Company's design wasn't meant to be disposable. It anticipated multiple reuses. By allowing soldiers to carry 4 empty drums at once, operational efficiency was greatly improved. These ergonomic touches were only the beginning. Compared to the rough and cheaply made containers from other nations, German oil drums were expertly crafted. Made from 2 welded halves, the drum's central seam was protected by a custom groove, a recessed middle section that prevented direct impact on the seam. This meant that, regardless of bumps, jolts, or rough handling, the seam remained intact. After years of service, while the drum's exterior might show plenty of wear and dents, the central seam stayed solid. You may have noticed the X-shaped indentations stamped into both sides of the drum. These weren't decorative, but rather a clever structural feature. The grooves allowed the drum to flex slightly, accommodating thermal expansion and contraction. At the same time, they acted like reinforcing ribs used in construction, making the drum sturdier. The lid design also deserves mention. Made from aluminum, the lid included a rubber gasket to reduce leaks and evaporation. Its lock mechanism was easy to operate, offering a tight seal. To open, you simply pulled the lever back, releasing it from the side latches, and the lid lifted off. Closing, it was just the reverse. No need for the pry bars or openers that British soldiers had to use. The lid also included a vent tube to speed up pouring, a thoughtful touch. Inside, the Germans added a complete plastic lining to prevent corrosion, which also made the drum safe for freshwater storage. And see that extra space behind the three handles? This section sits higher than the opening, which means the drum can never be completely filled. While it may seem like a design flaw, it's actually a calculated feature. This reserved space, precisely measured, allows a pocket of air to counterbalance the drum's weight, enabling it to float even when full. So if it fell from a boat or aircraft into water, the drum wouldn't sink, and the valuable fuel inside wouldn't be lost. All in all, this seemingly simple oil drum was packed with brilliant engineering. No wonder it gained widespread acceptance among troops as soon as it was introduced. By the start of the war in 1939, Germany had stockpiled thousands of these drums, providing robust logistical support for their armored forces. Germany even considered these drums a secret weapon, with soldiers instructed to destroy them if capture was imminent. But as the saying goes, good products speak for themselves, and before long, the Allies had uncovered the secret of the German oil drum. It's said that the British were both surprised and thrilled when they first saw this German oil drum. They couldn't believe there was such a perfect container that could solve all their fuel transport issues. Let's take a look at what the British had been using before. Their oil drums were crude, with an iron handle attached by a metal strip, requiring special tools to open. They were uncomfortable to carry, inconvenient to use, and easily damaged. Due to this design, British forces lost up to 25% of their fuel from spills and leaks. Typically, British oil drums were either discarded after a single use or filled with dirt to be repurposed as sandbags. Since the Germans had created the ideal solution, the Allies decided to adopt it wholesale. After 1940, Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union began mass-producing copies of the German oil drum. This design quickly became essential equipment for the Allied armored divisions. Following World War II, the excellent German design remained in use, with NATO adopting a version of the original German oil drum as the standard fuel container. Meanwhile, the Warsaw Pact countries also adopted a similar copy of the German drum design. Although Germany lost the war, its oil drum design truly conquered the world. Even today, this style of drum remains common, with the original design essentially unchanged. This fact alone is a testament to its remarkable quality. And that concludes this fascinating World War II story about oil drums. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.